Okay, so how about a small warm-up? So thank you to everyone who's already here. My name is Anina, and I'm very happy to welcome you to Investing in Germany, hosted by 3C Career Consulting Company. So many might say that expanding its own business, investing in Germany, is not the best idea these days, despite COVID-19 challenges and insecurities. But however, I say that's not the case. It's still a very, very good occasion to do so. And I guess also you are interested in it. Otherwise, you would not be here. So this is not a Schnapsidee, as we say in German, for bold ideas, but a very good one. And I'm happy to introduce you to our experts from the 3C Career Consulting Company, because they will give you insights on how you can enter the German market. But for the beginning, I would like to ask you, where are you from? So where are you based today? And just put it into the chat room. So yeah, perfect. To see like from where all over the places we are connected to each other. So we have Paris, France, Munich, Paris, Strasbourg. Oh, nice. Hello from Lyon. Cool. Okay, so that's it. We're pretty much French-German, and this is perfect because also our experts from 3C are French, German, European experts. But so I'm happy to introduce you to Helmuth Merkel and Nicolas Vermersch. So Helmuth will guide us today through a presentation, and afterwards he will also answer your questions. So please be aware, be prepared. Whenever a question comes up, post it into the chat and I will take them into account, and then we will discuss it later. And also, so I would like to give you a background on Helmuth. He's partner at 3C, and he has worked there for over 15 years now. But he also has a strong background from the industry himself. So he has been working as a VP and CEO, especially in the IT sector. So if you have a tech background, IT background, that's perfect. And for all of you who are from France, you may have some special French-related questions. And that's also why I'm very happy to introduce you to Nicolas Vermersch. He's also a partner from 3C, and he will be there to answer your questions after the presentation. So, Helmuth, can you already give us a small preview on what we expect from today's webinar?
Well, absolutely. Thank you, Anina. We will cover 3 topics. We will have a short overview about the, let's say, investment arena in the German-speaking countries. We will then go into the business environment in the specific countries, and then have a look and conversation about the specific behaviors, cultures, etc.
Okay, so that means we have 3 different sections. And as I promised to you, this webinar is for you. So after each of these 3 blocks, we're going to have a small break, and it's time for your questions. So please, as I said it before, whenever you have one, post it into the chat. And after every section, we're going to answer them directly to not have all the questions just in the end. Well, that's it. So I would hand over to Helmuth. Yeah. How about investing in Germany? How do you do that?
We will learn in the next few 30 minutes. So welcome everybody, also from my side. Thank you, Anina, for the introduction. Pleasure to have you here, and I hope your year-end business is not too heavy and that you can spend some minutes with us to listen to our presentation. So investing in Germany is actually our sweet spot. We support many companies that try to enter into the German-speaking markets, and we will cover 3 topics as just mentioned. I want to give you an overview of what is going on in general at the moment here. Excuse me. We have here the number of financing rounds in the last years, 2018 and 2019, in the, oops, sorry, my mouse is very sensitive here. Too sensitive, actually. You see here the UK, France, Germany. The row here are the investment rounds in 2018. The upper row are the investment rounds in 2019. And you see the most investment rounds in Europe happened in the UK, and then it's followed by France and Germany, very similar. The increasing part is in Germany and France. UK is a little bit decreasing. So the highest number, UK, which we are not covering today, we focus on what is going on here in Germany and France. Have a quick look on the GDP of the respective countries. You are most likely aware of that. Germany, by far the biggest country in Europe. UK, we already excluded here, but it's very, very similar to France, you know, and followed by Italy and Spain. This is nothing special for you. And you can here also see on the right-hand side, at the bottom, where we collected these numbers. Let's have a look at the specific cities in Europe. So also here, a comparison between 2019 and 2018. UK very strong in 18, followed by a decrease actually last year. France, Germany. Is this the foil? Sorry, I mixed it. Sorry, I wanted to go forward here. Excuse me. Financing volume per city. I wanted to address the specific cities in Europe. On the bottom, you see London with the highest investments in 2019, and then you see Berlin and Paris, very similar. You also see Munich, which is heavily growing. So what we will learn during this presentation, that Berlin, Munich, and other smaller hubs are following, but the focus areas are Berlin and Munich. If you excuse me, GDPR, financing, number of financing rounds. If we go, you know, we have here, we had it per European city. If we go further and have just a look on the separation split in Germany. So you have here, and these are now numbers from the first half of 2000 in comparison to the first half of 2019. Berlin is the city with the most financing rounds, so the hotspot to a certain degree, 41% of all financing rounds did happen there. Followed by Bavaria. Bavaria, you can actually say it's Munich most likely, yeah, and followed by North Rhine-Westphalia, which is in the western part of Germany. So you see also here, also we are decentralized. You see 2 to 3 big hubs where all the things happen. And if you go further now and look at where did these investments happen, in which industries, in which sectors, you see at the bottom, and here it's also first half 2020 in comparison to 2019, you see this number here, 500, is in software and analytics. You see mobility was very strong, especially in 2019. It decreased into 20. And you see also some fintechs and insurtechs investments into 2019, but they are dropping. Last year, first half of this year, software and analytics were the biggest fields. You might ask why mobility was so strong in 2019. For example, in Germany, there is one company, it's Lilium. They offer this autonomous helicopter taxi and there a huge finance round did happen. So again, here software analytics is the strongest part in the first half of this year, and you know these segments, at the bottom, the segments software, mobility, fintech, e-commerce are also the segments. 3C is very present and with a lot of expertise and track record. And if I now further dig into software, you see that it is also split here by Ernst & Young in the first half year of 2020, that the SaaS environment is the biggest environment. What does SaaS stand for? Just for your explanation, SaaS means software as a service. So this is everything that is a software and application that is used in the cloud, like your Zoom, like your Salesforce, like your Microsoft Teams. These are software as a service solutions, followed by artificial intelligence. But yeah, the strongest, by far strongest sector in terms of funding and financing amounts is the software environment. That was actually an introduction. I hope I'm not speaking too fast, and but we can have a short break here to answer some questions, or if Annina, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So my question goes to all of you again, because now we've learned about the different sectors, and I would like to know, from which industry are you? What is your background? So please go again and just paste it into the chat. Let's say communications or automotive, or is it IT, tech? Just please go for your industry. Ah, perfect. So we have an expert on this here. That's directly what we were speaking about. Nice. Okay. So we see there is, yeah, okay, really heterogeneous public you are. So some with IT background, engineering, software consulting, renewable energies. That's great to see that we have so many different sectors. Okay, and Helmuth, as you've been mentioning different cities, and can you explain to us why Munich is seeing such a boom? So Munich is rising as a startup city. Why that?
Well, in general, we will touch this point later, where you see where the big innovative high-tech companies are with their headquarters here in Germany, and it's mostly Munich. We will cover this topic later, Annina.
Sorry.
Therefore, Munich is booming because the international headquarters are in Munich or in Berlin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, does any of you have a question until here? Otherwise, I would just say, let's dive deep.
Let's have a look at the business environment in general in Germany. It is just, you know, that's the nice part of Europe, is that every country is different and has its specifics. And you know, my partner Nicolas Vermerge is working here for 5 years. He's French. We have so much to love about the different attitudes, the different sides on topics. Let's address some of them here. First of all, I want to dig further in an understanding of the market itself. So how is Germany split? It's an absolutely decentralized environment. It is not like in Paris with one big center. It is, you know, so you see at the bottom, it's Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg with 30 million inhabitants. Most people live in the west. It says North Rhine-Westphalia with nearly 18 million people. And on the left-hand side of your screen, you see in general the number of active workers in Germany in comparison to France. So we are nearly 45 million here in comparison to 30. And the population that's easy to follow are 83 to 67. So, and first of all, it's extremely heterogeneous and split. It's absolutely decentralized. what are these photos, by the way, are coming from my French colleague. So we have some example. What is so typical German? You know, we have the Bavarians in the south, we have the Nordic people in Hamburg, we have the former East German people, which are also have a different mentality to a certain degree. But that could be also a photo of Versailles. This is also, when I visited the chateaus at the last year, I've seen similar gardens here, but it is also, you know, we take care of our home, and you know, it's very important to have it very cleaned and controlled and everything. So here it says, das ist so deutsch. This is the meaning is, this is so German. Yeah? We have a lot of rules, and the difference might be that we even stick to it. And if there's, let's say, a signal like here, we just stop, we don't pass by, you know, and we have for every situation perhaps a different sign to get things under control. What we also have under control, but actually it's not too much control, is this limitation. You can go very fast here on our autobahns if you want, but on the other hand, lots of kilometers are already limited. So this looks nice, but on the other hand, there are many kilometers that are already under control. But still, there are some that you can, there's no limit. And then we know, it's obvious, we are a car company. We are similar to France, with other cars, it's even a bigger industry, but this is to a certain degree probably comparable to France, where you also have a strong car and automotive industry. So we have Berlin as our major city. Berlin has developed very strongly. I need to, excuse me, I need to take the picture, otherwise I don't see you. So, excuse me. Oops. All right. Berlin is at the moment the hub for entering or building up a business, starting up a business. It has a very strong B2C environment. You know, it's interesting. It is mostly B2C. There are now more and more B2B companies coming and entering, but the sector itself is quite young. It's quite cheap. So, for example, in finding really senior executive, senior manager with a good background, Berlin is comparable young. You don't find them there. You most likely find them somewhere else, but it's highly dynamic. It's cheaper in terms of salary. It's cheaper in terms of rent, also increasing, but it's a younger environment. Yeah. On the other hand, you have Munich, and what Anina just asked and mentioned, you have the center of the technology, let's say high-tech technology is Munich. Where you have the Googles, the Salesforce, Oracles, Adobes, Microsofts, all their headquarters are based in Munich. And you can see from here, it has nothing to do with geography. It's not in the middle. We are very close. You know, Rome is by far closer in Italy than Hamburg. So, well, Switzerland. So that's also an interesting part. Looking at Germany has nothing to do with where you are in terms of geography. It's because it always takes an hour to go somewhere by plane. Yeah, you should not think about Germany. We have to be positioned in the middle of the country just from a logistical point of view. You don't go by car from Frankfurt from the middle to Hamburg, but something I will speak later and explain later. So Munich technology hub, B2B, senior executives, highly competitive, extremely attractive for many people. Not because we are living here, because so much offerings and so much space to work. Hamburg on the north is more a media environment, digital marketing environment, some gaming companies, not so strong, highly attractive as a city to live, but in terms of has a very limited number of, or a limited qualification of people with a specific background, as I said, mostly in media, digital marketing, gaming, etc. Always not easy to find people there, by the way. Then you have the North Rhine-Westphalia, Düsseldorf, Cologne, where the most people in Germany live. Has some has some headquarters of technology companies. Some in commerce. Commerce is a little bit stronger here. Insurtech, insurances are there. Retail. These are the sectors that are okay in North Rhine-Westphalia. It's mostly an industry environment there. So you have to be there. Big potential, but the real and the many headquarters are not in this region yet. But this might change during the time. Frankfurt, obvious, is the financial sector. Lots of banks, finance industry. Not too many, frankly spoken, not too many headquarters of IT technology company there. The SAP, for example, is an hour drive. It's south of Frankfurt, an hour away. It can easily be reached by Stuttgart as well. So, but if you are considering, or if you are selling lots of solutions to finance institutions, banks, then it's obvious that you will be or have to be there somehow. And then you have the rest with Stuttgart. Classical, Stuttgart is located in the southwest with Bosch, Daimler, Porsche, also then I would say legacy IT industry like an IBM, an HP, their headquarters is there in Stuttgart. This is, but it's another environment. The west of Stuttgart is Karlsruhe. They have a good university, digital university, where you can find some startup environments, but in general, Stuttgart is not so strong. Here, just an overview of where the big startups happened in the past. You see on the right-hand top side, Zalando. Berlin. You see here the B2C, the more the B2C companies on the right-hand side. On the bottom, you see more the B2B companies. You see some unicorns. Good question, actually, for Anina into the crowd. I assume everybody has a good understanding of what a unicorn could be or is. It's a company that received a funding and an evaluation after a funding round of more than $1 billion. These are the unicorns, and you see some in Munich, some in Berlin, and also others distributed all over. Let's have a look at, we said we cover the German-speaking countries, and this shouldn't be arrogant, but in Switzerland and in Austria, they also speak German. You can easily talk to them and understand them. From my point of view, Switzerland is a highly attractive market. It's, from my point of view, very innovative, very open to technology. It's an expensive market, so it's not as price sensitive than other territories. Not at all. It's expensive. You have Zurich as the hub. Yeah, it's just Zurich, at least in the German-speaking part of it, which is the strongest and the biggest. You don't start in parallel in Germany and in Switzerland. You can start covering Switzerland, Zurich out of Germany. They are used to that. But in general, I highly recommend then to make a footprint into Switzerland. It's a very, very innovative, expensive, and good market. For you guys out of France, it's obvious that there's also the French-speaking part in Switzerland, which is always painful to cover this part out of the German-speaking part of Switzerland. It's always my recommendation to all our clients, go there, cover this part from France, from Lyon or somewhere, but it's extremely complicated to do this out of the German-speaking Swiss people in Zurich. They don't speak French, and their interaction is quite complicated, frankly spoken. So don't try this out of France and make the rest directly out of Zurich, or start with handling it, for example, out of Munich. And let's have a look at Austria. Austria is also quite simple. It's Vienna, Vienna, Vienna. It's a major city here. Everything is concentrated around Vienna. There's a little bit Linz, but the distance is also close. It's 1.5 hours drive there. My recommendation would be, and I don't, I hope there are no Austrians participating, but my recommendations would be in terms of priority. Germany, it's obvious, then Switzerland. And if you have covered Switzerland, you can consider to, for example, even take person from Switzerland have a look at Austria, but it's definitely the last priority. It's, and especially in the beginning, it can also by far easily covered out of Munich. It's 4 hours drive. It's in terms of mentality, very close, Bavarians and Austrians. So something that you can, from our point of view, start out of, for example, Munich.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for this part. Now it would be room for your questions again, if you have some related to this part. And I'm gonna start with a question, because I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that you would prefer to go to or to invest in Switzerland than in Austria. And you also mentioned that Switzerland is very expensive. We all know that. So does it really pay off to go there? Or why, in your opinion?
Well, it's, the huge international companies, Zurich, Credit Suisse, a huge financial and insurance sector, big industry, also Nestle, for example, in VV is the French-speaking part, ABB. So they are really large multinationals, and they are open to new technologies. I would even say they are more open than perhaps some Germans to adapt new technologies and innovation.
Mm-hmm. And thank you also for the overview of Germany and about the different spots and different specialties. So what if I have a company, I want to invest in Germany, how should I select where to go? So would you recommend to stick to those patterns? So you say IT is in the south and media would be good space in Hamburg, or how to select the location?
Well, I would really, I would select the location around the manager I'm going to find and build up the business. Munich has an advantage that there are other technology companies, but it's also a highly competitive market, and it's even harder to start a business there. Berlin also. So, it depends. If you have a good manager in Berlin, if you have a good manager in Munich or in Frankfurt, or, I would really recommend not to limit myself too much to a specific city. I recommend to focus on the manager, because he has to build up an organization around it. And, with Corona, home office is, having a real office where we are 5 days a week all together, and out of there, it's over. It will not happen. We will work remotely. We will have a hub. We will have an office, but we will not stick together 5 days a week. So focus on the manager, and the managers are located close to an airport or close to a big city. Yeah? And then grow from there your team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I think that's very interesting, and that's also where your expertise comes in from 3C. So on getting the right personnel, on getting the right managers. And this is also what you would like to talk about now in the next part, right?
Exactly. So, perfect. Cultural differences. There are some differences which are obvious between all countries and all nationalities. First of all, my feeling is Germany is not a quick win. That's not, in my industry, most headquarters or most companies are coming from the US. They make an easy entry into UK because it's a similar language, similar attitude. And, they build up UK, and then the next step is they consider to enter either France or Germany. most likely first Germany and then France. And then you cannot do this opportunistically. It will take you a little bit longer. That's the mentality. It's an expensive, but it's a huge market. The Germans will also interact with you, dear French friends, a little bit more direct. It's not, we are less polite, you know. I'm always, when I'm listening to my colleagues here, we have more French speaking people here, I'm always really impressed about your behavior, your charm, and you know, the Germans are bush. Yeah, it's just more direct, which is not, it's not negative, or it's just how they behave. And what we don't like is any approximation. You know, we're an engineering type of people, and you know, we like to have it squared or strict or black and white or exact, but we don't like it if it's too much dust around things. Yeah, we don't like that, frankly spoken. In case of conflict, you can also be very direct. You don't have to hide yourself. This is very much welcome. It's not a confrontation or something. Just be here very direct. And they are very reserved in the beginning. In general, you know, it's not that you, oh, thank you very much for calling, blah, blah, blah. So we have a distance to a certain degree. People are more distanced. Also in terms of, you know, when you look, we don't, it takes a while until you say you or she, you know, there's this different Mr. or you mentioned the first name, it's always the last name in the beginning, and then you when you come closer, it opens. So a little bit reserved, but the first no does not mean no. And also the buying attitude is by far more conservative. It is, I always say, it's try and buy instead of buy and try. You know, that's when we speak to the colleagues out of the US or if they want to enter here and build up a business. Our decision, the German decision process just takes longer because it is an engineering. They want to test things first, evaluate, and then buy. It's not an easy, they don't make quick and easy decisions. That's a little bit a pain, yeah, but it's more this engineering approach. On the other hand, trust and commercial ethics are key fundamentals. So you can to a certain degree make a contract with a handshake. People stick to their commitment. There won't be a rebargaining. It's a yes is a yes and a no is a no. But really, you know, especially with people in Hamburg, the northern people are very not only commercial oriented, but they, you know, you can actually close deals by handshake, and then they stick to it. Yeah, this is something which is also they want to see. So this is required. Don't make it too vague. Make it concrete. Make it your communication needs to be clear. Not too much compromises. I think this is fundamental. We are irritated if somebody is not clear. Yes, I would say it's a longer run. It most likely takes longer due to this engineering approach and this mentality and attitude. And I would also say they don't need to have the most highly sophisticated technical solution. It's more about reliability. It needs to work. You know, it needs to work, and that's fundamental. And then, you know, there can be innovation a little bit later. It's not, I would say here we are not the most innovative people. Perhaps the most reliable. And what I also recommend, you know, this is, we often hear, yeah, we want to hire a cheap person here who can start and have a look and evaluate the market. And if he has a first commercial success, we can add another one. Don't do that. Yeah, don't. It's a waste of time and money for you. It will be painful. You have to make a clear decision. You have to focus. If you say you are entering Germany, then you have to be very clear. straightforward, you have to also towards your clients, they are checking if you have a legal entity, they are checking your commitment in terms of entering a market. And if you want to cover everything out of France and then perhaps with a junior because he is cheap, let's try to build things up. This will not work. Yeah? You have to, if you make a decision to go there, you need to make it right, and not just putting a toe into the water and try to feel, is it warm or cold? You need to, so it's also a longer decision on your side. And what is obvious, and I think that's the same in France, it is a matter of respect. If we consider to open an office in France or want to make business with you, we would always consider to have a local person. Therefore, German-speaking team is mandatory. Don't try it differently. Everything has to do with commitment, and you have to invest in that. And what is, for example, the UK has a little bit different. UK companies, that try to enter France or Germany out of UK, out of London, very often by calling, and it's sometimes low profile. If you do that, do it right and hire and build up a local German-speaking team. My colleague says it's harder to find people in France. So there's this example. If we have to find a person in Munich, we might have to reach out to 100 people, and in France it's 160 to 200 people. So it seems that vice versa. Excuse me. It is harder. So you have to reach out to more people here than in France. So 200 here in comparison to France. It's also hard for me to judge, but I heard that very often that the English of the Germans is a little bit better perhaps than the French candidates might speak. So this shouldn't only be the only argument to make a decision for a person. They might speak better English, yes, but that's not everything. Well, obvious, more cultural differences than you think. The Western people are very communicative, by far more open. The people in the South are a little bit more reserved, also in the North. But I think that a similar person from Marseille is most likely different than somebody from Nantes. But perhaps you have more of this here in Germany. Also, salary. We experience very often, okay, we try to enter it, we try to make it cost sensitive or we give it a try first and let's see what's the outcome, and we don't want to invest too much, forget it. Don't do it, it's a waste of time. This market is highly competitive. Our unemployment rate is still very low. If it's about technology, if it's about whatever, high tech, it's an expensive market. And there are so many companies that are entering Germany and the German-speaking countries. Most candidates always can select between different options. Another thing is the grande école culture is not existing actually. So we have some well-known universities, but nobody takes care when you are hiring people, at least in the technology, high-tech environment. There might be an issue with lawyers, for example, but in general, you don't have this. Degree is important, but it's not so important where you succeeded with your degree. And that is easier said. You have to also find those who are open to your culture, which is obvious, but most people are more used to work with UK or US companies than with French companies. Therefore, you need to make sure that they are used and understand your company and your culture, and behavior. And always in recruiting, don't make any compromises. It will never pay off. If you are hesitating, don't do it. Yeah, this is a no-brainer to a certain degree. And as I said, the first woman and man on the ground is key. The first person is key. It's not about the location, it's about the person, because then you will have an office somewhere in Munich, in Berlin, whatsoever. But the office is anyway just more as a meeting hub than a really office where all of you work and sit together 5 days a week. So, Anina, I am done.
Not yet, you think so? Now it's question and answer time. And thank you, because we got some really good questions that I would like to directly address to you. So you've mentioned that it is harder to find the right candidate in Germany than in France. Can you summarize it again? Why that?
Well, I could actually ask my partner Nicola to because he has experience as well, hiring here as well as in France.
Thank you, Helmuth, and good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, maybe I can give a few words about that. When we speak about a startup, we of course speak about risk, and we all know that German candidates are a bit less risk averse than French candidates. We can be a bit, I'm quite often in Paris, and you see in Paris you still have this kind of entrepreneur startup mindset. And of course, to attract a German candidate working for a big corporate company to join a startup, he will always think 2 times before taking a decision to say yes. So that's the first reason. Second reason, of course, is we also all know that German candidates or German people are less keen to move from their local place to go to another city. So they commute a lot instead of France, where people have no problem to move. And of course, obvious last reason is we also know that the German demography, German population is becoming older and older, and you have less candidates for certain positions like sales position. You have less volume of candidates in Germany compared to France. So again, this assumption that we did, it's for startup. If we look at CFO, for a corporate company, it would be easier to find a good CFO in Germany than in France. Yeah. But so each country has its own work market characteristic, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And another question, and this is a tough one. It is, so there are differences in the salary between France and Germany, clearly, and it is hard to put it into numbers because it might differ for every position, etc. But can we, what is the difference in a range or something? Can you give us some details on that? So this goes to, I don't know, Nicolas?
Yeah.
I will let Helmuth complete it after that. If we look at gross salary, net salary, of course we have some difference between Germany and France. But let's speak about comparison of both gross salary. We of course see in the last 5 years a huge inflation of salary of salespeople in south of Germany. So I mean, probably I think 30–40% higher paid salespeople in Munich than in France. And it's really clear on the sales population. The difference is not so big on the classical, finance, HR, so not front office people.
Okay. And now one question from the candidate side. So how can candidates make themselves visible for the startup ecosystem, for employers? Do you have recommendations on that? And I hope that I got the question right. If no, please just put it into the text box. We're going to rephrase it. Okay, perfect. So what are recommendations? What should we do as candidates?
Well, as candidates, first of all, I would address us and provide us the information that you are open to make a move or come over to Germany. But in general, what you can only influence is that you are visible in case there's a mandate, a specific opening where you are fitting in. So how can you make yourself visible? It's obvious. You can signal at LinkedIn that you're open for a role. There's a German, let's say, alternative to LinkedIn, less popular, but still there. It's Xing. It's comparable to LinkedIn, but by far smaller, where you can also position yourself. I would address your CV, your motivation to change to good exclusive headhunters like us, because they mostly know what's going on in the market. We can give you recommendations, or we might even have a mandate where you have a good fit. So you need to make yourself open in the public profiles that you can easily be found, and you should address proactively those who have good opportunities that might fit for you.
Mm-hmm. And here it might be helpful for everyone who doesn't know 3C to give you some background. So 3C has existed for nearly 20 years, and your expertise is to find executives, right? To find the first man on the ground, and not just in Germany, but in all over Europe, right? And as we can see from your slides, so you're a team of 15 people from very different backgrounds, right? So all the different languages. So, okay, we've seen here most of you are from France and from Germany. So in case you want to speak French, you can, just address it to Nicolas and you will get your right background or your partner for help. And okay, we get one other really good question here on the incubator ecosystem. So you write that it is very well developed in France, for example, for finance. And the question is, how is this in Germany? How's the incubator ecosystem?
Well, the incubator system, from my point of view, is very good. We have, there are, let's say, semi-public associations like the French Bavarian Associate, which helps companies to enter here. There are also well-established VCs where you can, like a Sinovo here in Munich, who is doing investments, who can help you to enter these markets. So try to find a local co-investor who knows the market and will help you. We also are able to help you with whatever advisors or our expertise actually to let you know what we would recommend to build up a business. Nicolas, any input from your side? Did I miss something?
No, maybe we can say that I think obviously even if I'm French, I cannot be obvious, but I think France has been a little bit in advance in terms of launching the startup ecosystem. But now, I mean, you look at the slides we show you, you see that the financing volume is quite the same between the two countries. So it's a bit more complex to discover because you are not all centralized in Paris. But you have a lot of VC, you have a lot of incubator, you start to have also a lot of co-working place in Munich. For French people, you know that you have a French tech community in Berlin. We are working on a French tech community in Munich also. So, I mean, it's obvious that for a French startup who is looking to expand internationally, I think Germany should be a really serious a country to look at before maybe going to US.
I have to say that I enjoyed it very much, that you were presenting those German cliches, and it is a little bit cliche, but on the other hand, it is so true, right? So it's good that you mentioned it and yeah, that you brought it down. I have a question on all of our current situation. So we are in times of COVID-19 and so much has changed. So how about the job market? Do you say, yeah, it's the perfect time now to invest in Germany to expand the business? Or do you say, okay, we see some challenges, but this is the way how we solve it. So what about the current situation? How have things changed and how will it go on?
Well, there was some hesitation actually, but I would say the business is booming because there's so much money around that, especially in the high-tech industry, there are so many investments ongoing. There are so many companies that just received the funding that want to increase market share. It is really, on one side, you have, let's say, lots of companies that want to hire, and on the other side, you have the hesitation of the conservative, risk-avoiding candidates. You know, this is a little bit. We have a high degree of request, and then on the other side, the people that are not really sure if the timing is right. So it's a very competitive market. So if you have, let's say, a person who is actually looking for a next job at the moment, there's plenty of opportunities. This is funny. It is really funny. And what I strongly believe that it seems also, we have in lockdown since yesterday, it seemed that the German industry will most likely, we are not in a pessimistic mood or attitude. We don't have a pessimistic attitude. We are quite confident that it will be even stronger next year. So it's not that, as I said, it's tough to find the right candidates because it's so competitive.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting because, yeah, public impression might be that it's especially hard right now to find the right job, but maybe also from the other side to find, yeah, the right people. So yeah, it's good that you're mentioning this. And also, I very much like what you brought in before, yeah, explaining about the opportunities that we see right now, because location is not so important anymore as before, right? So how about teams?
Well, you know, it's as I earlier said, we will work out of distributed teams. You know, is this the question, the right answer to your question, Nina? So we will work. So you will have a manager somewhere in Frankfurt, and most of your team might sit in Berlin or in Munich. That's how it has changed. It is now accepted that you work part-time out of your home office. It's just a new way. You know, might be new for those of you who are really centralized in Paris, as we don't have these centralized hubs. We will see that really the people are working in distributed remote locations and come together once every second week or something to at least meet in person if it's possible again.
Mm-hmm. So to all of our participants here, do you have more questions for our experts here? Whether you are a candidate or you are an investor, no matter what your background is, do you have any more questions? Then this is your time to raise them. Okay. Otherwise, Helmuth, Nicolas, do you have, maybe for ending this, do you have a favorite case, a best practice to share? Okay, so let's say it like this. What would be your recommendation for everyone who's unsure how to deal with the current situation? What to do, candidates and investors?
Well, it depends in which industry you are in, you know. We have our contact details here. You can reach out to us anyway. There's not, I wouldn't say there's a general recommendation, but that one that if you do it, then you do it right and with a focus, and don't just try it out. It will not, the market is too conservative. It's they either you have commitment and make it, or you leave it. It's better leave it, postponing it, delaying it, than just starting it a little bit. That's actually my most important recommendation. We've seen so many tries that failed, and then they come back with another investment, another commitment, and then it works. That's actually my strongest argument I want to use. Nicola, from your side, anything?
Speaking about cultural difference, I'm always using the word of the ex-assistant of Helmuth Kohl, who was saying, you know, the German like the French but doesn't respect them, and the French respect the German but don't like them. And I mean, in another word, never neglect the big important cultural difference between the two countries, because they are quite huge. Even if we are two neighbor countries, we saw and we are seeing with Helmuth every day some big mistake of French company who are neglecting this cultural difference. So this would be my word, and I mean, of course, there's a lot to do, and I think we are still just at the beginning of the French-German collaboration story, and of course, with Brexit, we all know that probably the French-German relation will continue to be one of the pillars of Europe, and I think in 10 years there will be more and more, French-German companies, but we have to work on that. And I think one of these cultural differences are, our strengths also. Another word, I think this is, c'est une richesse de l'Europe. So I think we should do that more.
When you just explain it like this, in my head, there rose the image of the French-German motor. We know that. But like if it would be a hybrid motor and one part is the electric part and one part is the conventional, or yeah, and so together they are something new, but there are differences. And Helmuth, for what you've said, so the go for it or let it be, I think there is no better phrasing than the German saying ganz oder gar nicht. So for all our French participants. Okay, so Nicola, we got one more question for you. Can you give us one or two examples about the cultural differences that are not to be neglected? Yeah, so about those huge cultural differences.
But I mean, there's one we spoke about a few, but what we are seeing quite often is this, this French company who are not ready to pay German candidate at the right salary. And this is sometimes a bit French, to try to do it with the bout de ficelle, but this is not working in Germany, and this is really a serious thing we have to take care. And the second thing is that I think, cultural difference is things are taking a bit more time in Germany. I have another example about that. You probably all know the luxury brand Longchamp. The well-known bags. And I know the guy who launched Longchamp in Germany, and he told me it took me 3 years to start to earn money in Germany. And each week my boss was calling me saying, "But what are you doing?" But it took 2 years that the German accept that these bags were nice, and it takes a bit more time in Germany than in France, and we have to accept it. But as soon as the brand is implemented, it can be so strong that it's worth to try.
Mm-hmm. And before, you've also mentioned Invest in Bavaria. So can you shortly explain to us what is it? And yeah, what is it for?
So Invest in Bavaria, it's a public, half private Bavaria agency and of course, the role of Invest in Bavaria is to help to support startups coming from other world the world to implement their business in Bavaria, as said. So it's a bit like, let's say, BPI in France or Business France. And I know that they are really dynamic, and feel free to, we have good connection with them, but feel free to contact them directly. So they have a French-speaking person with Eva Apfel. She should be there today. I don't know if Eva is there, but I mean, they are really dynamic and really proactive. But we, of course, speak here just about Bavaria.
Okay, and thank you for all your comments, for all your questions. So we can also speak about Germany Try and Invest. That's true. It's the national equivalent.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Anton.
So thank you very, very much to all of our participants here. I hope we have answered all your questions. In case you have more, then please feel free to directly reach out to 3C, to our experts. And really, thank you for your interaction, for your good questions, for your comments. We hope to see you again around. And thank you very much to Nicolas and Helmuth for your great, great insights. So.
Thank you, Anina, and joyeux Noël à tout le monde.
Okay, then au revoir. See you in Germany.
All right. Cheers.